Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Backlog Band, the long-awaited return. It seems like this happens every few episodes. We have a long-awaited return, but
Yes.
we're really back again to do another episode of BLB. I'm Tucker. That's Abram, and here we are today to talk about the video games that we have been playing over the course of the last. Well, it's an indiscriminate period of time. Let's say that, to say the very least. But if you want to talk to us about those video games, we got a Discord channel. It's a lot of fun to screw around in, to talk about things. We've got a subscribe button that allows you to keep up with us and the things that we are sharing with you. Lots of finger pointing going on, and of course, there's a bell that will give you a little notification on your phone. Look at my Final Fantasy VI background. Whenever we upload a video, you can like them. That gives us a little spark of adrenaline whenever you do that. And Abram Buhner is here to regale me the tales of the absolutely exquisite video games that he has been recently experiencing.
So I was trying to think back to when we even did the last episode, and it was
before my birthday, because it was when I had just gotten Ring Fit Adventure, which I did only play for 2 days.
I know. I checked on. I like to stalk everybody on my Switch friend lists.
I do that too. Yeah, of course.
And I saw you've sunk a big 1 hour or more into Ring Fit, so I figured not keeping up with that one. But so I was trying to think back.
I injured my wrist doing these overhead presses.
Sure, that's what you injured your wrist doing. Yeah. Sure. But the point is, I was trying to think back. I think I have 5 games to talk about.
I was joking. I was stirring caramel really hard.
I have 5 games to talk about. How many do you have?
Let's see. I've upped my ante in the last few days, so I have 5 over the course of the last month and a half to talk about. So
right, me too. We should know that there are 2 games that we have both played a lot of that we're not going to cover here. Wario or Get It Together. We've both been playing a lot of. If you want to see our review, it'll be carded in the corner. And by the time you see this, hopefully our review for Tome will be out, which we've both also been playing. So those won't be mentioned here. We're going to talk about other stuff. So Tucker, I'm going to say, fuck you. I'm going first.
That's totally fine by me.
I want to take you to the wonderful world of Eidos Montreal's Marvel's Avengers game.
Oh, that's right. That was what we planned to talk about on the episode of BLB that didn't happen.
Yes.
And now this is the episode of BLB that is happening, and you're talking about it now. So fucking time's an illusion.
So if you guys remember back to last year, Tucker and I did review Marvel's Avengers, and neither of us liked it a whole hell of a lot.
No.
But I had been hearing very good reviews for War of Wakanda, the Black Panther expansion. And because all of these expansions are free, I decided to re-download the game, try it on PS5, considering I was playing on PS4 before, never tried the next-gen version. So I downloaded it on PS5, wanted to play War for Wakanda, and immediately I remembered why I don't like this game.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I'm not even getting to a systemic level yet. I wanted to play the PS5 version of the game with my PS4 save. Now,
is that possible?
Yes, but what I learned is to do it, you have to have both the PS4 and PS5 versions of Marvel's Avengers downloaded simultaneously to your console. And then you can bring the save from the PS4 version to the PS5 version.
Okay.
Which is absolute horse shit, and I don't understand how that is.
But you do have the PS5 version because there's a free upgrade?
Yes, it's a free upgrade, but it's the inconvenience of the 2 games together being like 120 gigabytes, right?
Sure, and taking forever to download if neither of them are already in your console.
Yeah,
and then presumably the transfer time of the data.
So that was going to be a huge pain in the ass. So I just jumped into the PS5 version fresh because you can play the expansion content out of order, and I knew damn well that I was not going to be playing enough for me to care that I didn't have my save from before.
Sure, that's reasonable.
And so my next problem was that I did not understand how to launch the War for Wakanda expansion.
Because it's not clear?
No, the menus are complicated. It doesn't make any sense. I tried clicking on War for Wakanda. It launches a playlist. It tells me to make a Square Enix account, and then immediately boots me back to the main menu. So I make a Square Enix.
What's an Avengers? What's a video game Avengers playlist?
It's
what
like
does that even mean?
Like the War Table mission playlist or whatever. And so they say make a Square Enix account, Tucker. I make a Square Enix account.
You should already have one.
Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I don't know. The point is, I made a new one.
Yeah. Oh, God damn it.
So I logged into the Square Enix account, validated whatever I had to do to link my PS5 in this thing, launched War for Wakanda again. Nothing happened. So I was getting very annoyed at this point. I closed out of the game. I did something else. I opened it back up, clicked on War for Wakanda, and it just launched. So God fucking So God fucking knows what happened, right? So already I'm not very happy with my Marvel's Avengers experience.
Yeah.
And then I get into the actual game, and it's just not that satisfying.
Sure.
I think the hallmark of good combat in a superhero game, and this game is pretty much all combat,
Yeah.
is the way that it makes you feel empowered, makes you feel like the character, makes it you feel like Batman or feel like Spider-Man, as every fucking review said, right? But there's a reason that gets trotted out, because it's true. You want to feel as though you're that character. I never felt like I was Black Panther. I felt like I was just kind of beating the shit out of the same dudes with the same cooldown attacks. I didn't quite understand the systems. Now, maybe if I'd been playing this whole time, I would have, but it was not very,
you mean the last
player friendly.
9 months or whatever?
Right.
So even months, though, yeah, it's close to that.
Wait, isn't it been like a year? Did this game come out last September?
Yes. So yeah, It's been 11, 12 months. Yeah.
Yeah. So even though War for Wakanda is supposed to be this new jumping in point, right? It's really not.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly didn't find the voice acting especially compelling, and find the writing especially compelling. I don't think it's the fault of the performers, because there's very good talent attached. The guy voicing T'Challa also plays Kratos.
Yeah.
Incredible. Yes, incredible actor. But obviously he was rushed in the booth. There was very little, there was no sense that he ever knew what he was reacting to when he was saying these lines.
Interesting.
The whole thing just felt like a rush job. And what it made me think, Tucker, is why in the fuck is IDOS Montreal just not making 10 to 12 hours? Because that's how long War for Wakanda is.
Yeah.
A 10 to 12 hour long Black Panther third-person action game, as they've cut their teeth on with things like Tomb Raider. Because instead, it's in this framework of a games as a service title that barely functions, and B, feels free to play in the storefront now, because I was trying to look at the different skins and such. One skin is going to set you back like $10 worth of premium currency. And so it just, it's great that this content's being offered for free. It's great that they're not abandoning this game, but it just feels like such a waste of resources. And when I see how bright the general Marvel gaming landscape is, it's just so disappointing to see
it's a weird bruise on that landscape.
Yes, especially for Black Panther, who is so cool and deserves a great game. And this just isn't it.
Yeah. And the thing that sticks out to me most in that whole analysis is the 10 to 12 hours for a DLC campaign. And like, not even just a DLC campaign, one of multiple that are already out, and one of presumably many that are planned. That if they are putting out games of this length, I think you come out every year. It's Marvel's Avengers, War for Wakanda, but the Marvel's Avengers is just like the tiny little thing up top. It's War for Wakanda. You press that shit on a disc, you send it on its way, you make sure to polish up some things, have it focused on Black Panther, but tie into this larger narrative. But the problem, as you said, is that it's in that framework of this game that already didn't know what its identity was. So there could be a solid Black Panther campaign in there, but when the little items that you're equipping your characters and the different upgrade points and all these things and returning to the helicarrier and whatever are put around this, it takes away from whatever. I didn't play this at all. I honestly don't care to. The Spider-Man one is planned for this year. We're getting close to the end of the year, but we'll see what happens with that. That'll be very interesting. But man, that's very disappointing. I mean, I think I from what I can remember back a month ago, whenever this came out, you are in the minority of disliking the War for Wakanda campaign. I'm not disparaging your opinion on it, but it does seem that like if you're watching this and you're interested in it, a lot of people are enjoying it, and there is some quality stuff there. And of course, it's free. Yes, if you have the game. If you spent the actually, I'm pretty sure the game has been down to like $20 at some point.
I also think it's on PS Now. I'm pretty sure.
That's right. Oh my god, I remember that.
I don't know if it still is, but at least it was for a while.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing I might add, just on your point of me being in the minority, I think it's like when I would say, oh shit, Rise of Iron is a great Destiny expansion. But if you don't care about Destiny, if you already have fundamental issues with how Destiny is constructed, you're not going to care that Rise of Iron.
That's totally reasonable. If you're a Marvel's Avengers fan, you'll probably have a good time with War for Wakanda. But if you're a Marvel's Avengers fan, you've already played War for Wakanda.
Right.
Yes.
Right. That's all I have to say.
Thoughts mean nothing to you. This is for no one. Anything else to say? No. Okay. Let's move on to the game that I spent most of last month playing. It's basically the only game I played for almost the entirety of August, which is Picross S, Sega Genesis and Mega Drive. I don't have a lot to say.
Yeah.
Because you've heard me talk about multiple Picross games over the course of backlog banter history. And that guy's in the game, Sonic.
I'm gonna download it right now.
Okay. And it's basically the same as all the other Picross S games. Jupiter just pumps these bitches out. There were three Picross S games this year. 5,
Yes.
the Sega one, and 6, which I didn't even know was happening because I was too focused on the Sega one happening. And I have so much Picross S to play that I have no interest in getting
Right.
6. But this is a great game. It is a little bit more complicated because these designs are not they're not tailored for Picross formula. But that makes them more interesting for an experienced player like me. It was a lot of fun to sort of piece things together and be like, oh, this is creating a sprite. This is creating an item from a game, and that's just the charm of it. And they've got little pixelated versions of characters and items floating in the background, and they have a new song for the game. Each Picross S game only has one song, but it's a great song. But I've had a great time with it. I mean, the thing that does shake up this one from my personal experience from the other ones is I decided to go with no hints. I have no highlights for which ones to select. I have no automatic X thing if you press the wrong thing. I have to restart if I make a mistake and can't figure it out. And that's been really challenging but very rewarding for me, and it's been training my Picross chops even more. So I feel even more confident playing this game. And some of the puzzles I've had to give multiple tries, but it's been interesting going into it with no assist, because I was playing almost all of my previous Picross experiences with plenty of assist things. There's plenty of hint options, plenty of things for the game to help you along if you're stuck. But I went in with none of those, and I'm now on 15 by 15 and 20 by 20 puzzles. So that's the kind of experience that I'm going for. And Picross, for those of you who don't know, is my sort of Zen puzzle game. I played this game for 7 hours one day, like last weekend or 2 weeks ago. So that's where I'm coming from of really enjoying this game.
Yeah.
Playing a couple puzzles almost every day for the past month. It's been absolutely a blast.
Yeah, I think I said that this is going to be the one that I tried because it's got the Sega characters and such. I don't think I'll be playing without those hints because I'm a fucking dumbass.
Yeah,
so
that's fine.
This will be my first Picross experience, and I guess I will report back next week with what I think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Ready for the next one?
Fire on me, Captain.
Metroid Fusion. I beat right before I left for California.
Had you not beaten that before?
I'd beaten it.
Okay.
Before. It was previously my favorite Metroid game. It is now solidly my second favorite Metroid game behind Samus Returns.
Yeah.
I'm also a part of me wants to put Prime just above Fusion, but they're right next to each other, which I think is nice because they released on the same day in North America. By the way, I would have probably combusted had I been cognizant of that day.
Yes. What year was that? Was that
2002?
2? Okay.
So I was like a year and a half when that happened.
Yeah.
Almost 2 years old. I think this game really is excellent. It's gotten a fairly mixed reputation as time has gone on, with people like your Arlos or your friend of the show, John Cartwright's being
literally. Yes, we always say that, but now we can finally literally say friend of the show. Oh my
yes. Being a little bit more mixed on its overt linearity.
Yeah, sure.
But replaying it, for me, I really love that linearity because it enables just a really different sort of Metroid experience. I think this is far closer to an action platformer than a Metroidvania. Mm-hmm. And I think that's interesting for one of the games to kind of take that formula in a different direction, because what it allows Fusion to do is focus more on it having an overt plot line, which you don't get a ton of unless you're playing, your other M's or things like that, right? And I just think that the world of Metroid is so amazing. They have so many interesting lore elements and locations and characters, but usually their background is about environmental storytelling and, the ambiance and everything. But here you get to enjoy a really interesting sci-fi campaign with really great areas to explore and still Metroidvania progression, but just in the context of a more linear action platformer.
Yeah.
And considering you can beat the game, I beat it in 2 sittings. You can beat the game in 3, 4, or 5 hours.
Okay.
I think it's really manageable. I think that pixel art is beautiful. I'm of the opinion that GBA pixel art is more beautiful than SNES pixel art.
Yeah, I think I'm inclined to agree. Of course, there's
Yeah.
exceptions on both sides, but
Sure.
GBA is what I grew up with, and seeing something like
looks
Minish
so good.
Cap or
Yeah.
I love the pixel art for like Ruby Sapphire Emerald.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of nostalgia there for me, but yeah, no, I can definitely see that.
Yeah, and so I think this is a really great experience. Some of the boss fights are real motherfuckers, but I think on the whole, platforming and combat feel a bit more foregrounded and a little bit more polished because again, those are actually they're more important to the experience. What?
I think you just mispronounced platforming. You said plotforming, and that's story-based 2D platformers or plotformers. Oh my god. Oh my god.
But because the exploration is not as central to the experience, platforming and
Sure.
combat are foregrounded more, and I think they feel a little bit better. And I just love the narrative that they tell. So I'd really recommend people play Metroid Fusion. Nintendo isn't making it too easy on you.
Yeah.
But on Wii U Virtual Console, the game is beautiful with restore points. You won't feel the difficulty spikes of some of the bosses, which is my only true issue with this game. And on the whole, I just think it's really an awesome experience.
Yeah, I mean, the Metroid series is interesting because obviously it created an entire.
I agree.
Yes, it created an entire genre, and for the most part, almost every game in the series is well regarded. But within those, there is some that certain people of different tastes have distaste for. Other M notwithstanding, because I kind of feel like from an outsider's perspective, no one really likes that one, except for maybe you. I don't know.
I don't like it, but not for the reasons other people don't like it.
Sure. But linearity is not something that I have an issue with in my games, and I don't think I would in Metroid because I'm someone who enjoys experimentation within series. Iteration is fine, but I really like it when things try something new, even if it doesn't work. And so while I had a great time, I did have a great time playing Super Metroid. I'm very excited for Dread. I've got Samus Returns waiting in the dregs of my room. Fusion is interesting for multiple reasons, and I don't think I would have an issue with it being more linear. I think that sounds pretty compelling to me. And it being more story focused is something that I had a problem with in Super Metroid. It just felt a little bit so focused on the atmosphere that there wasn't actually a compelling narrative being told.
Sure.
So Fusion sounds like it fixes a lot of those problems, and I'd be certainly interested in try it. It's a game that I will play at some point, but I don't have any particular rush to, though its short length definitely compels me.
Yeah, I would say it's short length, and in combination with the fact that Dread is Metroid 5, I would advocate that you play it ahead of Dread. I don't think it's going to be essential by any means. I think Nintendo recognizes that most people are going to come into Dread for the first time.
Of course, yes.
Which is a totally fine way to play, but I think that
if they put the game on the online services,
they won't, but I know that you're one of the 9 people who has a Wii U, so I would say for $7 it's worth
it's worth right there. Okay, that it for Metroid.
That's it for Metroid
Fusion. We're going to talk about a game that I beat yesterday, and it is a game that I have been teasing you about for the last few days with my riddle. No. With my riddle that the game lies in what you've been playing. Now that riddle is very complex. It's very nuanced.
Can I make another guess?
But it is true. Yes.
Is it Splatoon?
No. Okay. That does fit that. Yeah. However, the answer is Famicom Detective Club, The Missing Heir.
Oh
yes, which lies in what you've been playing because I played it on your account. So if you checked your own play clock, you would see that you've been playing it.
By the way,
my riddle was not unfair.
We don't account sharing Minecraft. Roblox.
Yeah. But I played
cool
Famicom Technical The Missing Heir because I remembered that you bought it, and I'm like, well, someone might as well get the money's worth.
Did you beat it?
Yes, I did. That's what I said.
How long is it?
With a guide that tells you exactly what prompts to choose, 4 or 5 hours.
Okay, then I might do that.
But I don't recommend this game. I don't think it's very good. I've played my good share of visual novels, like 4 or 5 of them, namely the Sakura series on Steam, which are just big booby anime girl games where you click the button and it shows a different text box. But this is clearly a visual novel before they knew how to make a visual novel from a design standpoint.
Right.
Everything about the modernization of this game from its Famicom version is exquisite. It's got great voice acting, all in Japanese. There's not English voice acting, but that's fine. It's got great art. It's got a great remastered soundtrack. It's got great additional features like a notepad that automatically keeps track of each character and what things you've learned about them and things like that. You can press X to go back and look at what things have been said recently. And in that, you can click and listen to the voice line again if you want to. There's a lot of cool modernization to it. I have no problem with any of that.
Yeah.
But the bones this game is based on is a Famicom visual novel.
Right.
Which brings all the weirdness of that era of game design to visual novels, which are supposed to be simple. So what you'll do in this game is figure out a murder mystery. Fucking whoop-de-goddamn do. But the problem lies in that it has the obtuseness of that era of game design.
Sure.
So you'll get stuck all the time, because it's not clear through the prompts what actually spurs on what kind of reaction from the characters and what you need to do to move on. Sometimes, and this is what the worst examples of this is you'll need to use the exact same prompt 4 to 5 times in a row, but you get the same answer every time, so you have no idea you're making progress. The only way to progress is to say, like, call someone's name 4 times, but you'll call them name the first time, no response. Call them the second time, no response. Call them the third time, and you're like, I don't know what's happening. So it's so trial and error based in terms of the randomness and obtuseness of what prompt does what, and some of the things, the questions, the short, like 2-3 word questions, not making any sense in terms of what you're actually wanting to ask the characters. It's just not fun to play, to be honest. I realized that about halfway through, and I just looked up a button for button guide, or like prompt for prompt guide. I wanted to just finish the story. And the story is totally fine, has some interesting twists. I'm mildly interested to play The Girl Who Stands Behind, because that's a prequel, and in the context of this story, that kind of sounds interesting.
It's supernatural too, I think.
A little more so, but this one's also supernatural, but it's like it's this supernatural in a murder mystery thing where, like, it's villagers telling a tale and they think it's supernatural, but it's not actually. But I just think this is, for all the wrong reasons, an interesting visual novel.
Yeah, I was interested in it mostly as a historical curiosity.
Yes. So was I, which is why I played it.
Yeah. And then as soon as I started playing it, I completely agree with what you said, right?
Yeah.
It didn't play especially well to me. I think it's cool that they did re-release the games.
100%.
I think having, like, there's so many weird pockets of Nintendo's history that are just completely forgotten about. So bringing that back was cool, but I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
I actually, because of that, I want to throw in a bonus 6th game to talk about. And that's this little bad boy right here that's out of focus in the camera.
Oh, it's Ace of Chronicles.
Yes, it's Ace of... Oops, I just dropped it. Where did it go? Uh-oh. Ace Attorney. There it is.
Did calling its name help you locate it?
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
It did. This is a visual novel I can fuck with. Let me tell you something. So I've played only the first case. Mm-hmm. I'm not an especially... I don't have a very good attention span for reading, basically. So it took me a long time to get through case 1. Not because the game is bad, but just because I'm new to visual novels and I don't want to read things. Sure. But my problem with Famicom Detective Club is that the game was so flat, right? Yeah. It was so flat. Even though the art's beautiful, it's flat. Yeah. Here in Ace Attorney Chronicles, the game is fucking bonkers. The first case is a murder mystery too, right? But you got all kinds of wacky people who are suspects. You got this girl who's wearing a big goose hat, and the goose is alive on her head. You got this, like
Eslo.
Yes, actually, you've got this army. You got this military sergeant who talks in military speak, and he's got a baby like strapped to his back, and the baby keeps trying to peek up over his shoulder, and he keeps pushing the baby back down.
God, that's so funny.
You've got all kinds of crazy shit. You've got like you've got this prosecutor who is basically a simp for this British girl, Japanese prosecutor. So he's like, she'll insult him for being Japanese, and he'll just like fall over backwards, be like, yes, my lady, you're right, and everything. The game is so expressive. You go up, you yell objection, the camera fucking spins around, people freak out, they lose their minds, right? The bang of the gavel, the camera cuts, the music's crazy. This game is awesome.
Yeah.
This is how you get me interested in a visual novel. right?
Mhm.
So, like I said, I only did the first case. I think it's really cool. It's going to be a game that I slowly pick away at, and because it's
Yeah.
episodic, I've got no problem doing that. So I really don't have a whole lot more to add other than the fact that this is a visual novel with life. This is
Yes.
something that doesn't feel like I could just read it or have like a choose your own adventure book and get the same experience.
Yeah.
The gamified elements, the presentation makes this so much more.
Yes.
So quick shout out to that.
If you're looking for visual novels on Switch, there are now 4 or 5 Ace Attorney games on there. One of them is a collection of 3 games. Well, no, that's what I meant. There's a bunch of Ace Attorney offerings on Nintendo Switch, which are fully remastered. They're redesigned for the console. Those are classic and influential games. And Phoenix Wright, great character, all that kind of stuff. I know the one you're playing is not a Phoenix Wright game, right? It's
so it's a prequel to it.
Yeah, it's like
the prequel takes place in feudal Japan.
Thing. Yeah. Oh,
it takes place in feudal. Well, because it takes place in feudal Japan, but then you go to Britain.
Okay. Or whatever. Doesn't matter. Don't play Famicom Detective Club. Honestly, I don't recommend it. And we had this discussion in the Discord as the games were releasing, but that's just too expensive. $35 for Famicom Detective Club, 5 hours. No, that's not worth that money, especially when Ace Attorney Trilogy is less than that for games that are longer and better designed. There is no reason for these games to be this expensive, and from every possible angle, I wholeheartedly do not recommend Famicom Detective Club, though I am glad I played it, I guess. I don't know. I just sort of had nothing to do at work one day, and I'm like, okay, fine. Boop, start it up and just see what happens. But so now is it my turn again?
You can make it your turn if you want.
You just inserted an extra monkey wrench.
I know. I did. I really put it.
No, but I guess it is my turn.
I threw a spanner in the works, as my European friends will tell me.
Sure. Yeah. Do you have European friends? Okay. The next game I want to talk about is my first video game. I started Pokemon Pearl again, and we had a plan to review this game, which I don't know if it's going to come to fruition. But I started playing this game again because we had just come off the heels of the Pokemon Presents showing brand new footage and information about Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and I'm like, oh my good lord, it's been a long time since I've played the original Sinnoh games. Oh, look at there, look how to do. And everything about this game, nostalgia wise, just hits me in every angle. I was playing through it, catching every Pokemon that I came across, leveling up all my guys. But Pokemon has come so far. Has come so far. People complain about the experience share, but having to single-handedly level up each of your Pokemon and put your Magikarp in first slot and then switch it out immediately just to get some experience is actually just not fun. Like it just slows the pacing of the game to a crawl. And I think this is more testament to the fact that Game Freak learned from their mistakes and not a commentary on what these games were when they came out, because obviously I had a great time with it when I was a kid, but I don't know if random encounter, no experience share, no extra options for experience Pokemon games are really that fun to me anymore. I mean, I think Gen 6 is kind of the oldest I would go back to in terms of like game flow and pacing. I love the world of Sinnoh. I think that pixel art and the music is fantastic. It's got a great set of new Pokemon. But from what Pokemon has become looking back, I actually don't think this game is very entertaining to me anymore.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so I still maintain that experience share can eat my shorts. I think that
I don't know how you can say that.
Well, because
when was the last time you played a random experience, no experience share Pokemon game?
Last couple of years. I think probably Fire Red, or no. Most recently, when I went back to Crystal, and
I guess that's
it would have been that when I went back to Crystal at the beginning of this year. The reason, and this is going to derail the whole conversation, so I think we should. I'll only touch on it briefly, but I think that the difference between an experience share Pokemon game in the modern sense of experience share, and in a classical Pokemon game with no experience share, is that the classical games make you level up a team. Mm-hmm. And the new games let you just, level up.
Experiment, be creative with your team composition, enjoy the flow of the experience.
But that's just you being facetious, because I totally get where you're coming from.
Genuinely no.
I get where you're coming from, but I think undercuts, in my opinion, and I was seeing some people online, Tamashi Hiroka, who's one of the only PokeTubers I care to watch.
Yeah.
She was talking about this in the sense of team building and team composition used to be more important because experience was a commodity, and leveling up Pokemon became an accomplishment, and you made that bond to the Pokemon because you had to be deliberate about how you leveled them up. And I think that for the people who wanted the challenge in the main game, people like myself, that was appreciated, right? And I think the obvious middle ground that I'm frustrated the Game Freak won't adopt is just optional experience share. Turn it on, turn it off.
That is the thing. What are you talking about?
Not in Gen 8. Gen 8, the experience share is always
is that
on.
the only? I mean, I know it was in 7 and 6.
Yeah, but in Gen 8, experience share is always on. But so I disagree with you there because I like that feeling. I like that challenge, like having to be deliberate about how I'm sharing experience.
It's not challenge though. It's just you grinding in the grass to knock out a bunch of fucking Bidoof to get your Turtwig to level 14.
But I think the thing is it forces you to, if you don't want to grind, play more strategically, because there is a whole different ball game of playing Pokemon where it's not about grinding and it's not about brute force. And I think that's when the Pokemon adventures before you reach the post game is the most interesting, right? And so for me, I do like that because I do think it's a challenge, because my recourse, if I don't have experience share, is not to go grind in the grass, but to be more strategic and deliberate when I go into battles and using items and actually using battle items and thinking about type advantages and setting up, status affecting moves, right? And I just think that is lost in something like Galar. But where I completely agree with you are things like the online infrastructure and specifically random encounters in the overworld and things like that. And so that's one of the reasons I'm curious to go back to Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, right? And see, I didn't really mind it that much in Crystal, but that's contextualized with me going back to Crystal. When we're playing BDSP, we'll see how I feel about that, because I do think that overworld Pokemon, visible overworld Pokemon, just make the game more immersive and make the just the game flow, as you were saying, a lot better. So I disagree on the experience share, but on the whole, I think I'm on the same page as you, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see when Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl come out. Of course, that there's a possibility that they include more modern versions of experience share or whatever to more extra thing, because what they've of course added externally to experience share are multiple ways to give your Pokemon experience regardless of battle, which I think is also something that greatly enhances game flow.
I agree there for sure.
And so it's possible they add those, but seeing the amount of effort going into BDSP, it wouldn't surprise me if there wasn't a lot. But hopefully there will be options. Hopefully they'll be able to find a middle ground and make that older style more entertaining to me. But I don't replay games almost ever. Because I'm someone who likes trying new stuff. I like moving forward and experiencing as much as I can. And also because I'm afraid that my great old experiences will be knocked down by my modern perspective. And that's happened a few times, but there's no time bigger than playing Pokemon Pearl and just getting to the second gen and be like, man, this actually just is not that fun to play as a video game. And I have no... if you want to review the game, I will beat it. I mean, I know how to play Pokemon. I can beat Pokemon Pearl, but I don't have the drive to at the moment. I mean, I put it down 3 weeks ago and I haven't looked back. But
to be honest, I mean, I don't really have a whole lot of intention to going back to Pearl, especially now that we're into the thick of it's time for Deathloop, and then it's going to be time for Monkey Ball, and then Metroid, and then Mario Party, and then BDSP is here. So I'd probably say I'm not too interested in review, but so I've got 3 more. Where are you sitting? You're sitting in a chair.
2 more. So it'll go perfectly. Hit me, baby, one more time.
I want to hit you with a little game called Metal Gear Solid 3. Snake Eater. I wish I liked this game more than I do. Here's the rub, right? I think Kojima's games are just too verbose for me. That's what it comes down to.
An element of his game design, yes.
When your cutscenes, or especially your codec conversations, which are a lot less engaging, when your codec conversations go so long that my Xbox dims its screen because it thinks that I'm not there anymore. That's just not the way I enjoy games. I think Metal Gear Solid 3 is a wonderful benchmark in terms of narrative storytelling and ambition. especially for its time. And I think that playing on the HD collection on Series S, it cleans up very nicely. But I just can't get into it. That's my problem. I have tried several times in the past to play MGS3. And
Really?
there's a chance that this might be like a Metroid Prime or something where I have the game now in its most optimal format for me, and I will return to it.
Yeah, sure.
And it will click with me, maybe. But I just like playable games, right? And
Yeah, so do I. That's why I didn't like Purple and Pearl though.
I just think that the overemphasis on cumbersome narrative
Sure.
is turning me off, and that's
Yeah.
all about all I have to say.
I mean, I just want to keep the conversation going a little bit more so I can share my experience with Metal Gear Solid, which is it comes from 3 pillars. The first pillar being Metal Gear Solid 3, 3D, the 3DS version of Metal Gear
The demo
Solid
of
3,
that a lot,
which
actually.
I bought because I like Smash Bros. And Snakes in Smash Bros. And I see a Metal Gear game on the 3DS, and I'm gonna play this game. And I don't really remember a lot of my experience with it, but I also remember that I only played like an hour and a half of it.
Okay.
Because there's just so many like little options, and you're like camouflaging yourself when you get in the gameplay, and of course the cutscenes are going on for 7,000 hours, and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? This is back when I was 15 or something like that, so
Yeah.
it was a good amount of time ago. But then I got into game retro gaming and owning all the old consoles, and I have a physical copy of Metal Gear Solid 1 on a PlayStation, and I actually streamed some of that game.
Oh, I've already told
from
me about this.
Instagram live streaming, pointing my
course.
phone at my CRT, which I'm sure looked good to no one. And no one watched it either way. But so I played about 6 or 7 hours of the original Metal Gear Solid, and that's probably actually an overestimate. I probably didn't get that far. But I had a good time with it, mostly because I was like pushing myself to enjoy it, to give exciting commentary to the people, no one who was watching. But that was okay. And then when I first moved into my dorm with Tanner freshman year, he told me one of his favorite games of all time, Metal Gear Solid 5. Him and Timo were really selling it to me. So I started it up, and the opening cutscenes for Metal Gear Solid 5 are like 35 minutes long. Except for like one gameplay thing where you move yourself slowly along the ground. So I didn't even get past those cutscenes because it was just going on for too long. And so I mean, I can certainly see where you're coming from, and I think I'm probably on the same page. I would love to be a Metal Gear fan. The way that people talk about 2 and 3 and the experience of 4 coming out, and then 5 like redoing, like reformatting everything, and the story being all crazy and layered and interconnected, and these characters, I would give nothing more than to be a Metal Gear fan. But I just don't know if that's in the cards for me, especially considering how I have gravitated in my game history to shorter games, and these are not that. They're verbose, they're slower paced in the cutscenes, and I don't know if being a Metal Gear fan is really for either of us, even though we would want to be.
I mean, Phantom Pain's gameplay is a hoot and a half when you get into that open world, I will say. Yeah, I mean, I actually like that that hospital sequence. I think it's pretty fucking nutty.
I don't remember.
That's the game. I do intend to play through the Metal Gear Solid series, because I find the games very interesting.
Yes, exactly.
And I really don't. I've always heard people talk about Metal Gear. I don't really give a damn about the way people talk about Metal Gear, because I think a lot of that is, I mean, Kojima knows how to market he knows how to market a game, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm not really approaching it.
I bought Death Stranding at launch.
I also did. And if you're not careful, I might buy the director's cut and try it again. But just purely on a narrative level, I think the game's really interesting. I want to get into them, but that's all I have to say.
Okay,
Your Honor.
Let's go from a game with a snake to a game with a snake, because I dabbled in Snake Pass on Nintendo Switch. You can see I'm putting a little S there because I'm a snicky snake. But I had played this game a little bit on one of my friend's Switches when it came out. I've always really fascinated by its concept.
Yeah.
I mean, I played about an hour and a half. I played a first 3 or so levels. Of a 3D platformer, I guess, where you play as a snake and have to use snake physics. And oh my god, is this game creative! And it has a fantastic visual style. It's got great music, and it feels like a a modern rare game from its colorful
A
cartoon.
lot of Rare staff worked in that game.
Okay, well then
Yes.
there's my draw. But
It's frustrating as fuck.
oh my god, the game is fucking frustrated. And
Yeah.
you're always gripping one of the buttons to move
Yeah.
your head or move around. And I like actually got cramps in my fingers because
Yeah.
in order to move, you just need to hold down a button with a tight grip. And it was legitimately like painful to play. And I had to put it down or change controllers, like shake out my hand so I could keep playing.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing for me. I want to love this game. I want to collect every little bit and bob and grade at the controls because there's so many interesting things that mechanically that they do and with the physics and having a little bird pick you up and tighten your body so you can continue on. And it's what a creative, amazing game. But man, I really wish they had changed the controls a little bit so it was more comfortable. I just think the controls are physically uncomfortable to use.
Yeah, I haven't played the game since 2017. This is one of those early like Graceful Explosion Machine type Switch eShop exclusives that I was super excited about. And I played quite a bit of it, but then I just hit a wall where the game becomes too demanding in the context of its control scheme and its checkpointing and everything, right? So I just got frustrated and put it down. I actually would like to maybe return to it and give it another shot because I agree with you. I think that when you say let's get a nostalgia-driven throwback 3D platformer, you end up with Ukulele or Hat in Time, and one of those games is quite good, and the other one is just fine. But they're still existing kind of in the framework of what came before. You know, I think Snake Pass is a beautiful example of taking like the feel and the spirit of that era of platformer and making something totally new out of it. But I just don't think that it ends up executing on those ideas.
Yeah. I think it just takes that sort of old style precision in control a little bit too far because I think that this is the kind of game that would work best with a manageable core going through the story mode.
Yeah.
And having a lot of optional content on the side that as you get better at the controls, which of course there is optional collectibles and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think a simpler through line to be able to beat the game and experience the entire thing without having to be immaculately good at the physics and controls of the game would make this a phenomenal game with that extra room to grow if you do get good at the controls and you really want to test your skills. But unfortunately, if you hit a wall at level 5 or whatever, and you don't want to put in the time to mechanically get your fingers strong enough to continue the game, I think that's a little bit of a design issue.
Yeah, I agree. And it also kind of it kind of cuts against what those early 3D platformers, or the good ones at least, were about, right?
Sure.
Because
like Banjo.
Actually, yes, like Banjo.
I know.
I hate to say it, but yes,
Banjo
like
is better than Mario 64.
Yes, I agree with that also. Even though I don't like Banjo Kazooie that much. Those games understood, in Mario 64 in particular, that precision platforming in 2D does not work in 3D.
Does not translate. Yeah.
Right. And so those games are looser and more forgiving in terms of the mechanics of platforming. And I don't think Snake Pass understands that quite as well. That's why I don't like not Banjo Kazooie, my bad. I don't like Banjo Kazooie that much. But the reason I really don't like Crash Bandicoot is because Crash Bandicoot operates as though you're in a 2D space, even in a 3D space, which I was
trying my best, as you said, that to think of a precision 3D platformer, and just Crash Bandicoot entirely slipped my realm of possibility. But that is exactly what you're referring to, and I think that's a great pull. But yeah, Snake Pass is fine if you're a skilled gamer unlike us. I'm sure you enjoyed it a lot more.
Tucker, I want to talk to you about a game that also has some peculiar controls, and that is Art of Rally.
Oh.
This is a rally racer from a little studio called Fun Selector. And I was initially drawn to this game because of its beautiful art style.
Look up a little trailer for that.
And then I was undrawn to the game by its $25 price point when I was already knew I had some purchases lined up before I went to visit Jean. And so when I came back, I noticed that the game was on Game Pass. So I downloaded it on Game Pass and I reviewed it on RetroWare, one of the sites that I work for. And I think this game is very interesting. It presents itself like an arcade racer, but it's far closer to a simulation in terms of the way your car feels and what I mean. And so The effect of that is I literally, Tucker, could not make it around a corner for my first day of the game. I physically could not figure out the mechanics of braking and getting around a corner.
Interesting.
I also can't drive in real life, so that doesn't
True.
help things at all. But rally racing is also a very particular sport. And this whole entire game is an ode to rally racing.
Mhm.
And so for the first day and a half, I was fucking infuriated because I just couldn't, I literally would have to come to a complete stop to turn around the corner. But the more I played, the more I understood the controls and the more I started to kind of really love the experience of the core gameplay.
Sure.
It's very satisfying finally seeing like your drift tire marks be in a nice curve around that corner instead of watching them go straight into the fucking bushes as most of mine did, right? Mm-hmm. And because of that and some really great like rumble in the controller and great sound design made it a super fun experience. But I think the overall package. I saw you
breathing in to release a butt. Like the butt was coming up your throat.
Yes. I think the overall package is lacking. The career mode is about 15 hours long, but I think there's about 7 to 8 hours worth of content there. What
did you beat it?
Yes, I beat it.
Good, googly moogly.
I beat it because I was.
Did you review it?
Yeah, I reviewed it for Retro.
I didn't know about that.
I might throw a link in the description so people can see it more complete thoughts.
Yeah,
but
remember.
I won't remember, and I'm not editing the video.
Yeah.
So but because I'm reviewing it, I always try to finish the games I'm reviewing to the best of my ability, right? And so there just was double the runtime for the amount of content here because there's not too many track motifs, not too many track gimmicks.
Sure.
So the game ends up feeling fairly repetitive, right? And because
that's a very valid criticism.
Yeah, and because
for obviously
of that,
simplistic game, I think that tracks.
Definitely. And so I found myself having issues with the package, but I think that core gameplay is really compelling. And so if you're playing it outside of review context, and you don't feel beholden to finishing that story mode, right? Because there's actually a lot of cool unlockable cars, actually some interesting like open world sections you can drive around and find collectibles in. There's fun content here, but I just think that the entire package lets down what I think are very good core mechanics.
Yeah, sure. And I think that's one of an example from a smaller studio of a complaint that you have in general of modern game design, which is just stretching things out to give you a runtime as opposed to what the game should be designed for. And I think for me, the clearest and most frustrating example of that is a game that we talked about earlier in the year, Metopia, which has approximately 6 hours of gameplay stretched to 8 hours. And a good Lord, I still can't physically comprehend that I actually played like 9 hours of that game a day to just out of spite beat it. My God. I need to do a Metopia. Like, can we do a Metopia rant at some point?
I've got no problem with that. I think that'd be great.
God, I need to shit on that game. It's in my blood. Sure. But I do see that as an issue. But though you're mentioning some things like there being side modes in a mini open world or whatever it is that do sound interesting, and I actually I'm probably not gonna play the game because I don't really care about racing, but and that mechanical complexity or skill is not my forte. As I mentioned with Snake Pass, but I mean it sounds like a mixed bag, and I think probably your thoughts and review reflect that.
Yeah, I mean, most of my reviews that with games on Game Pass end with "It's on Game Pass, go play it." Right. Yeah. So if you got Game Pass, go play it. Go give it a shot. So this is why Game Pass is so great, because I wouldn't have played Art of Rally otherwise, you know?
Yes.
So Tucker, hit me with your last game.
My last game is a game we like. That's that motherfucker called Splatoon 2. And the reason I started playing that game is because I heard Tanner listening to a TikTok with music from a song that I thought was from Splatoon, but it's not. It's called Love Me by the 1975.
Oh. Sure.
I'm just expecting Pearl and Marina to go. I'm like, huh? Hark. Is that Splatoon music? And then it wasn't. But then I was like, oh shit, I'm thinking about Splatoon music. I'm listening to the Splatoon soundtrack. I'm gonna go play some Splatoon 2.
The kids aren't sampling Calamari Incantation for their TikTok dances.
That's such a good song. Oh my God, I love that song. Oh my God, Splatoon 2 has such a good soundtrack.
Fucking awesome soundtrack.
It has been It's probably been a year since I played the game or more.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with this game
Yes.
early 2018 or summer 2018 is really when I got into it. And I played the story mode, and I was playing. I was meeting up with my friends to do salmon run on Discord and play matches together and all sorts of stuff. And I was getting into the whole gear system where you can wipe your stuff and buy all sorts of things. There's a ton of systems there. It was a lot of fun, but it's just been forever since I played the game. And hopping back into it, I was very rusty, and I was using my trusty gun, which I can't remember the name of at the moment. It's a little metal looking deal with a little canister and sprays like that. I don't know. But I had a lot of fun trying again. But there's
the
something
arrow
about
spray.
Yes, the arrow spray. That's my classic gun. That's basically the only one I've ever used. But there's something wrong with the matchmaking, because every game that I played about 7 on this going back in. It was really borked. I mean, it was either we were entirely wiping the floor with our team because I had like 3 or 4 god level players on my team, or I was just stuck in my spawn for the 5 minutes of the match. And I don't know why that is, because I don't remember having that issue before. Maybe it's because I'm rusty and not contributing to my team enough, or that everyone else has just rocketed in. Whoever's still playing is a super high skill level.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to have it be so imbalanced. Like it was like 25 to 75 splits on the map at the end of the matches, and that was just really frustrating. And it did knock the wind out of my sails of being excited to play this game again, when I felt like I was either they're over there, it's nothing matters, or I can't move at all, and they just keep killing me as soon as I spawn. And they're like, I don't know, it was really imbalanced. I can't say why.
I actually played a lot of Splatoon 2 recently also. I was pulling an all-nighter for a redacted reason.
Yes.
And so I just wanted to hop into some Splatoon. That wasn't my experience. There were a couple matches where people were having like a squid dance party, so the other team just was not fighting, or where like we were getting rolled and they were rolling us. And I think it is just a symptom of the fact that Nintendo is no longer supporting the game.
Yeah.
So either the people who are playing are really fucking good, or they just bought the game, right?
100%. Yeah.
Those are the two types of people that are playing Splatoon now. And so luckily, Splatoon is one of the only video games that I'm genuinely quite good at. So I can hang even with players who are much higher level than me, because I just played a lot, and shooters I'm a little bit more inclined towards. So I didn't have that experience, but I think that experience is just symptomatic of the fact that this is what happens when you leave an online shooter without support like this.
Yeah.
And so while Splatoon 3 is so exciting to me, I think it might have been smarter for Nintendo to just make Splatoon 2 a platform that they expanded across the entire lifespan of the Switch. But jumping back into it myself, I just remembered why I just adore this game. I really adore the game.
And look, I still adore this game. Still one of my favorite games of all time. This recent 40-minute play experience does not knock my overall experience, but it did, as I said, knock the wind out of my system. Like, oh, right, Splatoon. I was pretty good at this. I know how to paint the map pretty good. And then I hopped in. I was like, oh shit. I don't know what I'm doing, I guess. But whatever. It's not a comment on the game design. Though I do think there probably should be changes to the matchmaking to reflect this newer set of players that are so disparate in their skill levels, which is I think what I was feeling. But they're not supporting the game anymore, so it's too fucking bad, I guess.
Yeah.
But Splatoon 3 is coming soon, and we're about to start getting trailers for it, and we're gonna get the Squid Research Facility coming back and giving us little trailers and new side modes. We're gonna see new weapons and a new story mode, and the new city with the shops and the clothes, and we probably get new hosts for whatever it is, and a whole new soundtrack, and
I'm hopeful for a late spring, early summer release. I'm hopeful for either April or May. Yeah. I mean, I think honestly releasing it like at the same time the original Splatoon release, like early, or I guess it was late May if I remember, because it was when I was getting out of school that year. I think something like that would be pretty good. But I would also like the game to release on January 1st.
Yes. Hey, it's coming in 2022. January 1st, 2022.
But Tuck, you ready for my last game?
God, if you don't do it, I'm gonna leave.
This is my favorite Switch game of 2021 so far.
Oh yeah.
No
Actually,
More Heroes 3,
Oh, yeah.
baby. This game's fucking awesome. But it's also not very good.
Yeah.
So here's the rub, right? I think Grasshopper was given $4 to make this game with.
Yes, and that, as someone who has not played the game yet but did pay attention to the trailers, that is exactly the vibe I got.
Right. I think that's abundantly clear, and I think that it in part informs some of the more repetitive elements of this game's design. It's clearly a game born out of limitations in some respects, right?
Sure.
But I have come to appreciate recently games that feel rough, but feel like they have a vision behind them.
Sure.
And this is a game with a fucking vision behind it.
I'm sure it is, yeah.
Suda51 is an absolute madman and a true visionary working in the industry, right? Something I've been thinking about recently is like auteur cinema, right?
Yeah.
Gaming doesn't have many auteurs. You can point to Kojima, obviously. You could make arguments for like a Neil Druckmann.
Sure.
But I think that Kojima and Suda are the two big ones.
Yeah,
right?
I can see that, yeah.
And so
as opposed to indie companies, which I think do have a little bit stronger.
Yeah, I'm speaking at a AAA level.
Yeah, of course.
Mostly. And I just think that playing a game this weird and this interesting is just refreshing. I think on a mechanical level, the combat is really good. So there's that. I think even beyond the style, I think that the substance is questionable, but I think that the combat is quite good. It is a humongous night and day improvement over what the combat was in the original No More Heroes, which I didn't find particularly compelling. Yeah, and I know you didn't either. So I think mechanically the game is better, but what I loved about it was just the story and the world and the style. Do you mind a couple spoilers? I'll make a little spoiler hand flash thing here.
I mean, here's the thing. Actually, I'm just going on a little spoiler thing here. I don't usually like spoilers for things, but if it's something I'm not interested in, it just goes in one ear and out the other.
Sure.
I've been spoiled on plenty of things that I later experienced or got into years later or whatever. And then like as it's happening, like after I'm like, oh, that's right, I was spoiled on that, but it didn't impact my experience at all because I'm a fucking doo-doo poo-poo head, and it leaves my brain because in reality, I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah. Like you're just gonna be saying words that are entirely gobbledygook to me, and I'll just nod my head and smile, and and then I'll pat you on the back, and we'll be on our merry fucking way.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do this while I talk, so people know when to mute.
The whole time.
Mute. Okay. Yes, I am gonna do that.
Okay.
So there's a boss fight called Sonic Juice, and it's a JRPG boss. And they have this dialogue exchange before the fight where Travis is shitting on JRPGs and Sonic Juice is trying to convince him that it's a good genre. And then the fight takes place as a turn-based JRPG, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
So there's really fun stuff like that. There's this one part at the very end of the game. Maybe I'll just hold my hands up so I don't have to keep flashing like that. That
makes a lot more sense.
Where Travis gets knocked off of a platform and he's falling through the sky and he's like, shit, I'm gonna die. I need somebody to come pick me up. And a wormhole opens and the mech from Daemon X Machina comes out. And Travis goes, and this is a line of dialogue, he goes, holy shit, it's the mech from Marvelous's game Daemon X Machina. And he jumps in the mech and uses that to finish off the game with. It's just so crazy. And I think that's what's so interesting about it, right?
I can totally see that.
And so when I'm going through...
Spoilers are down?
Yeah, spoilers are down. No more spoilers. When I'm going through the core gameplay loop of fighting these ridiculous enemy designs that are so creative and the combat feels great, and then I'm doing these simple but satisfyingly bizarre side jobs, right? Because side jobs are very simple before, and you still have your lawn mowing and you still have your trash collecting, but you also have missions where you get in a military tank and you shoot crocodiles who are trying to invade, send, and destroy. The game is just, it's so clever. It's so unapologetically unique. It's special. There's no other way to say that. The game is objectively poor, but it is so incredibly special that I can easily and completely overlook almost all of its issues.
Sure.
And so this is a mileage may vary type of situation. And I was telling somebody in the Discord this, I don't necessarily know if I would recommend you play No More Heroes 3. I think that if you look at No More Heroes 3 and it's interesting to you, you're going to love it. But I'm not sure if it would convince you that you're going to love it if you go in skeptical. But I went in expecting to enjoy it, and I came out the other side thinking that it's really a definitive part of the Switch's library, because there's nothing else like this. And I'm so happy that Nintendo gave Suda the opportunity, Marvelous gave Suda the opportunity to make this game happen, because
of course,
it's just so great. And it's got a real heart to it and a mind to it. There's a lot of satirizations of genre and trope and everything. So there's meat on the bone, more meat on the bone gameplay wise, and just the same style that Suda's always had, but it's just fucking boosted to the moon. I think this game is really cool.
I mean, all of that is fascinating. It means basically nothing to me, because I played like 3 hours of the first game and thought it was pretty piss poor. But I went into that first game with pretty exciting expectations. I was ready to love that game, and now, but so I think for me that repetitiveness, the lack of polish in terms of design, would be a pretty significant problem. And I don't know. Obviously, this is just semantics. It's just word gobbledygook. But your use of the word definitive for the library, I do kind of take issue with, because I think ascribing that to a game that is objectively poor, when you're saying this is what the best of the Switch library is, but one of them's actually kind of bad, it's just a little bit uncomfortable for me, especially because the Switch does have a pretty robust library of incredibly polished and well-designed titles that are that definitive tier. And obviously, again, it's semantics, but would you say I'm trying to really actually give myself a point, because beginning of the year, we predicted what would happen in 2021. And one of my predictions was No More Heroes 3 comes out and is underwhelming. Would you say I get points for that because the game is, as you said, objectively poor, or no? Okay.
I don't think so. And I still think it's a definitive game on the platform, because I think that if we're going to treat video games as art, we need to have a wider definition of what's going to be acceptable, right? I think that there's a lot of games on Switch that are very polished but not very interesting.
Sure.
There's a lot of games that sell very well but are not particularly unique, right? I think that there's a lot to be said for, as the industry matures, putting emphasis on creators telling stories that are not going to be found anywhere else. You're not going to find a game like No More Heroes anywhere else. And I think the fact that the Switch is home to that is a testament to the fact that this is an ecosystem that's going to foster and support that kind of creativity.
Yeah. And
so for me, it's definitive in the sense that this is an incredible illustration of what games can be and how they can succeed beyond the more traditional metrics of what makes a game good. And so for me, that really means a lot, right? This kind of creativity is 1 in a million. You look at a lot of games that we love that sell great, but they're familiar, they're iterative. And this is iterative upon itself, sure. But it is also, Suda's in his own lane, right? And that means a whole lot. And I think games can be definitive for different reasons. So I wouldn't call the game underwhelming, and I would call it definitive. But again, it's case by case, right? So subjective, of course.
Yeah.
Very, very, very
and
subjective
of course,
on my part.
we know as an audience, as the people who are experienced with BLB, that these are also TM Abram opinions.
Sure.
They don't really apply to anyone else, and that's okay. And we love you all the same.
Sure. I think you should try the game, actually.
No,
you have it.
Man, I don't know
in Minecraft.
Want to.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not something that interests you, you might not like it. But I think that removing the cost barrier is that makes it easier. And maybe you played it for an hour and it didn't hook you, and that's totally valid. But I think
no, you're I do want to. Okay, I will give the game a try. Whether who knows how far that'll go. It's totally possible that I think that I do agree with you, because I am someone who loves style and creativity, and I do foreground that in terms of my enjoyment of things. So I have no idea if I'm gonna like it or not. But what I do want to do is be able to have a greater discussion with you about it from my own personal experience, because what I'm doing now is extrapolating everyone else's things and the things I saw from the trailers and my experience with No More Heroes and saying, well, but I can't speak from experience because I have not played the video game. Wink. I don't know why I winked.
I just wink back to make you feel less awkward.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And with that, this episode of BLB, a good, very good episode of BLB. Not one of our best. I know I say that a lot when we're finishing up our episodes. I don't think it's one of our best, but it was a very good episode of BLB. And I hope
A
you
hearty
guys
one.
enjoyed as well. Hardy, sure, that's a great
11
one.
games mentioned today.
Damn. Yeah, that's like a indie showcase.
It's a veritable smorgasbord.
You know what pisses me off? That word is spelled with a D at the end. I thought it was smorgasbord for the longest time. And then I saw it, I'm like, that sucks. I hate this. Damn.
One of the cyborgs going to evolve into smorgasborgs.
Cyborg. We'll see you guys in another video. Bye. All right. Any qualms you want to get out of the way first? I don't. You're a fella. You got thoughts.
You got a loose neckline. I don't know how.
This is the only shirt that I have. I have no clean pants, no clean shirts, and no clean underwear.
I would say that shows a lack of foresight, but I also get in that situation often. See, I have the problem where I will do my laundry the day after I've run out of clothes. I usually stretch it one day, and I'm like, "This is where I just said this is critical that I do the laundry."
I also only own 3 pairs of shorts.
Sure.
Which is a big part of that problem.
I own 45, so I do laundry like once every 6 weeks.